Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a part 2 to my therapist Q&A video. I got a lot of constructive feedback that it would have been helpful to go over more of what makes up a good answer. And at first, when people were requesting this, I thought to myself, well, it's also specific to where you're interviewing, and I obviously can't tell you like why you want to be a therapist, what your strengths and weaknesses are. Some of that nitty-gritty stuff is just really personal to you, but with more thought put into it, I think I can add some guiding advice of what would make up a really good answer to each question. So in this video, the questions have not changed from my previous video of my interview question Q&A, but I am going more in depth with the answers. So I don't want to make this video super long. Let's get right into it. Hi, my name is Allyssa Powers, and I created this YouTube channel to teach you the things that grad school didn't so you can thrive as a mental health professional. I would love it so much if you would subscribe. If you are finding me for the first time, I make all kinds of content for therapists that are aspiring, are in grad school, are seasoned. I have all kinds of goodies on my website for you that are free. This is my dog Emmy making an appearance. So let's get into the actual questions and answers, and I'm going to help guide you through this process. I think it would be a really great video to have a notebook out and jot down some of these questions and answers, because I think you're going to want to review them before your interview so you can feel really prepared. And some of these answers I'm going to give you probably need a little bit more research on your part if you are not familiar with them. So the very first question I talk about is, what is your theoretical orientation? So answer to that, common things I think you could say. Things like CBT, DBT, internal family systems. That one is becoming super popular. So if you have learned about it and it resonates with you, I think that would be a great one to mention. Narrative therapy is another one, existentialism, and Rogerian therapy. So that's things like Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard. Hopefully we are all working from that framework, but that's one that I think would be great to mention. And I will say, I would just hone in on a few that you actually have experience with and that really resonate with you. So if you've done CBT and you hate it, then don't say you're going to do CBT, right? You want to be honest and authentic with all of these answers, because interviewers are really going to pick up on that. Next question, why do you want to work at that agency or practice? Now, I would definitely get on their website and look up what makes this practice special, what is their niche, who are they serving, what drew you to them, why did you apply? Hopefully you have some reasons for that. So I would dig around a little bit on their website and see, what is going to be a good answer to that. For me, I only ever did private practice. I never worked for an agency, so it was a very small sample size at the practice that I worked at, but I really think that private practice or an agency, it doesn't really matter. You can come up with some specific things that are drawing you to that place. Okay, and then a little bit of a throwback question, probably from your grad school interview, but why did you want to be a therapist? So I think some good answers to this would be the obvious. You like helping others. Maybe you have your own story of mental health recovery from going to see a therapist yourself. Of course, you want to keep that within a professional range. You don't want to say like, and then I was hospitalized for this and that, and you want to keep it like coming across as you are ready to do a very grueling job. But many therapists have their own mental health struggles, so I think that is okay to share. And then being a therapist is super creative. Seeing clients change is so rewarding. There are so many great reasons to become a therapist. So those are just a few that you could leap from. And then what kind of clients do you like or not like working with? So for me, if I was in an interview, I would say I don't want to work with couples and I don't want to work with kids. I want to work with adults only. That is my preference. Now, you might be the opposite. You might love working with kids and you only want to work with kids, or maybe you want to be, a full-time couples therapist. Just think about what you are open to. And don't feel too much pressure to already have a really well-defined niche if this is your first job. Because for me, when I first was working, after I graduated, I kind of was okay with seeing anyone because I was still figuring out what I liked and I didn't like. So don't feel like you have to be so specific of like, I want to work with adult ADHD, or I want to work with kids with trauma or whatever. You can still say like you're figuring that out, but I just think some people have topics they're not really comfortable with, or they have, things that are too close to home for them. I think an interview can be a good time to bring that up. It's cracking me up that she's just like panting here. She's been cooped up. It's like 3 degrees in Ohio today. So I'm going to try and walk my doggies a little bit later. Okay. Next thing, very important, I do think this will get asked, is how do you handle suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation? This could be a whole video within itself. And honestly, I don't even feel comfortable like putting that kind of advice on the internet, just ethically, because states are different. Things require, it's just a whole ethical thing. But what I will say is know how to safety plan and be willing to talk about what their procedures are, and just show a willingness to learn what their procedures are and ask them about that, because every place can be a little bit different and what the protocol is, if you can, do certain things, when clients are going to the hospital, when they're not, when they're going to an IOP program, safety planning, documentation, know your stuff. I think grad school, hopefully this was your experience too, but I think grad school does a good job of really preparing you with safety planning, because you just really need to keep your clients safe above all, right? Okay. Next thing, what do you want out of a supervisor? I'm assuming that you are not independently licensed yet, which means you are going to need to be supervised until you get your hours and you can apply for your independent licensure. So I think that being honest about what kind of supervision style works for you would be great, but here's some jumping off points, saying something like you want someone you can have rapport with, someone who's supportive, and most importantly, someone who is willing to give you real and tangible advice and techniques to use with clients. Because if you are not licensed fully yet, you probably are having some imposter syndrome. And I know when I was first in the field, the thing that drove me crazy about supervision is that it always got pushed back onto me of like, well, what do you think you should do? And we're so used to doing that as therapists, asking our client like, well, I can't really give you advice and tell you what to do. What do you think you should do? But we are trained, and some therapists are better than others. There's just facts. You have more experience. You should have some really good knowledge to pass down if you are a supervisor. So I think knowing that you are going to get some real tangible help in that supervisor supervisee relationship. Next question, the dreaded strengths and weaknesses question. I actually had to do a little bit of Googling to figure out like what you're supposed to say these days, because I feel like it's changed a little bit, but the internet says to be honest, obviously within reason. You don't want to say like, oh, I miss work all the time and I'm really unreliable. Like clearly don't make yourself a red flag, but also you can say things that are true. Like, I don't have full confidence in my skills yet. I'm a new clinician. Or sometimes it's hard for me to say no. Or I think setting boundaries with clients might be hard for me. Maintaining work-life balance might be hard for me at first. I think those are all acceptable things. And then your strengths, I hope you know what your strengths are, but some ideas that came to mind would be passion for the field, empathy, creativity, being able to build rapport with people easily, and being a good listener. I think those are all strengths of people who typically get into this field. And then next question is talking about trauma and multiculturalism. Hopefully your grad program prepared you in both of those ways. I know I felt very underprepared for all the trauma I was going to hear about in my program, but they have since added a class that's more trauma specific. So that's good. But I would talk about, what you learned in grad school and what you did in internship, working with clients who are diverse, working with different cultures, and then, working with trauma, which we all do, and what you know about trauma-informed care and, any models you've learned, any techniques. I feel like I saw so much trauma in my internship, probably more than in private practice. So I had a lot to go off of. And of course, you don't want to dox your clients or be unprofessional, but I think you can give some examples of working with trauma if you have that experience. And then hopefully they ask you something about how you plan to maintain your own self-care. So talking about friends, hobbies, things you do for fun, having boundaries, trying to not burn out, doing things that fill up your cup. All of that is, hopefully something you can prioritize. It can be really hard in our field. The burnout rates are extremely high. And then I would recommend being prepared to do a role play, which is the worst ever. I hate role play. I never had to do that in an interview, but I have heard that people have to do that. I wish my dog wasn't being so loud this whole video. So be prepared for that, and then be prepared to ask the interviewer good questions. I actually have a video on questions to ask your interviewer to kind of spot red flags of a toxic workplace. So I will link that up here, and I will also make sure, I probably already did so, but linking to that original video. I really hope that this helps you so much. Please leave me a comment if you are interviewing. Let me know if this helped. Let me know how your interview goes. I absolutely love being a resource for you all, and I hope that you subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.